want to get the video of inside someone's anus and then put the audio of Fred talking about how he wouldn't mind someone shooting video inside his anus and put that over the top. Just him casually being like, yeah, wouldn't be so bad.
Welcome to Fangin Around. This is episode 35. Is it? Yes. Check that. I'm recording on the 7th of January 2013.
2013, it's the future already. I said that last year and the year before, but this year I mean it even more than those years because it's even more futuristic.
We're super duper futuristic. Campbell's.
I've made a wreck of this Kilkenny. This is how futuristic we are. I've just cracked a can of Irish beer in Australia. Fresh. Now, is it true that these beers are better out of the can than in the tap? If you're not in Ireland. I've heard that rumour.
Well, see, I should have thought ahead and put the glasses in the freezer, so mine's already gone. Well, we're in the middle of a heat wave in Perth. I mean, not in Perth, I should say. The heat wave in Perth is probably technically broken, but Australia is going through a massive heat wave. We're probably going to wake up tomorrow to find 200 people dead in New South Wales because they've got record fire warnings, and the firebox is going, oh my God, we've got to get out there and start those fires.
Yeah, it is pretty crazy.
And we've got to give a shout out to Tazra because his state of Tasmania has been devastated by fire, so we hope he's okay.
Yeah, good luck over there.
We can't afford to lose any of our listeners because...
or any Tasmanians.
Yeah.
Because they're probably the
coolest ones.
The coolest. From the land of love, we call it. It's the Paris of the Southern Hemisphere.
I'm James.
I'm Campbell.
Just two of us. And because of the heat wave, we're recording inside my house, so you'll notice an echo. I'm very sorry about that. The shed is like...
You mean our usual sound studio? Our shed?
Sorry.
Or is that what we call it?
The
shed.
Jimmersham shed.
We just call it a shed. It's not really a shed. It's more of a corrugated iron box.
Yeah, exactly.
You've almost half finished your Kilkenny already. Mine's still settling.
It's settled now.
Mine?
Yeah.
You reckon that's settled?
It looks settled to me from my
Okay.
angle. Yeah.
Let me... Here.
The reason I had Kilkenny was because I was watching Anthony Bourdain's going to England and eating old British food, weird food. And I couldn't quite be stuffed going and making offal or something. But I went and bought some British sausages and some mash and some peas and some Kilkenny.
Oh, really? Well, yeah.
Probably not a good thing to eat in a heat wave, but I didn't know what else to do.
Well, you've got to do what you got to do. I think sushi's probably the only sensible thing to eat in a heat wave, really. But that takes a bit more effort. Here's a pro tip from me to you. If you're ever in Coles or Woolworths or something and you're wanting to make sushi, and you're wanting to buy the rice and you're wanting to buy the nori, the seaweed paper, right? 10 sheets, it's like $4 or something crazy, right? Go to an Asian supermarket. I bought a packet of 500 sheets for $10. Okay?
Yeah.
And before, I was like a princess with these things. I was treating these things like, my only child. Like, oh, so careful. When you've got 500, I was just shoving them in my mouth. I just eat them by the fistful.
Yeah.
Because they're delicious just by themselves.
The
seaweed.
All right.
Yeah.
Just source of salt. So
oh, yeah. It's fantastic. You just rip it into shreds and put it in a bowl and you just sit there snacking while you're doing work.
So one day in a heat wave, I had to stop. I was at work and in a 4-hour shift, I burn 700 calories or whatever. I had to stop because I was about to faint and buy some Gatorade to boost my electrolytes.
Really?
Which I haven't done.
Sometimes I keep an emergency tin of baked beans with me for when I'm...
Oh, just some emergency energy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just one of the...
I had energy. I have a very low salt diet, so I...
How's your diet going? How's it all going?
Well, it's non-existent at the moment.
Why?
Can't diet in the heat wave.
Why not? Isn't it the best time to diet? Or is it dangerous?
Because I'm not... Well, I guess on days that I'm working, I'm burning it off. But on the days that I'm not working, it's too hot to... Just disgustingly hot to exercise. And I'm hungry, just as hungry as I am, because my body's got used to the amount of calories that I'm eating on the higher calorie diet. So hopefully the heat wave will die and I'll go back on.
Yeah.
Plus, various summer events means alcohol, which slowly screws things up.
Yeah, right. Because last time I remember when you first started, you were sort of saying, well, I didn't do this today so I can have these glasses of wine. But you're not doing that anymore?
Yeah, I guess technically I can. But like today I did nothing. I came out of bed, sat under the air vent and only moved to set the podcast up. You know,
so once I arrived...
I burnt 0 calories until I arrived. You know, I've eaten 3 meals.
Have you thought about getting... I remember the Dirty Web? The infamous Dirty Web. This guy called... Well, we can't release his first name, but his last name was Webster.
Yeah.
Back in high school, and he was referred to as the Dirty Web. Known for partying and whatnot. But he... I remember him bragging at high school about how he got so ripped. And his hot tip was... do you remember those infomercials for those... I'm sure you can't buy them anymore. They must be illegal. But it was like like little electrical pads that you put onto your body, and it gives you a small electric shock to cause your muscles to involuntarily flex.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He said he'd go to sleep with it on his abdominal, just to so he's working out while he was sleeping.
Cool. There's a whole mad.
Have you thought about that? I'm just saying.
No. Well, the diet's working normally, so I wasn't going to change anything. But there's a whole Madman episode about that, about Peggy has to try out the things, but turns out the reason it's so popular among women is because they get an orgasm when they put it on there for JJ and it vibrates away.
I think I remember seeing that episode.
Yeah. And so they were trying to work out a subtle way to promote that
feeling good.
Added benefit of the product in the ads without being disgraceful.
Overtly describing. That's cool. Last time we were on, I mentioned a couple of films. We were in a bit of a rush, so in the consuming section. I saw Dark Knight Rises, which has been a long time coming.
Yeah,
and you guys all abstained from talking about it because I hadn't seen it, or you talked about it in shadows and vagaries.
All right, yeah.
So do you want to give me your opinion on the film now?
Well, I really, really enjoyed it, but I think it was just terribly... It's one of the worst edited films I've ever seen. There's like so many scenes where they're lingering on a shot too long, or there's so many shots where they're cutting way too fast and you want to see what's there. And the whole and that really bugged me, because I think you could re-edit that into like a great film, rather than at the moment it's just like, oh yeah, it's the finale to the... It's like, it's more of a sequel to Batman Begins. Like, it's almost as if the Dark Knight never happened, really, apart from him having the events of that causing him to retire for 8 years, which, some people have problems with, but I don't really care.
Yeah, I pretty much agree. Like, Liz and I were sitting there watching it going, this isn't quite working. Like it's like most of it's really good, but for some reason it didn't work as a whole. Yeah. So you're sitting there not. Yeah. I wasn't invested in it. I didn't care about it.
And it would be even. I'll never watch it again, because I last saw it on IMAX, the biggest IMAX in the world, and it's like a spectacle, and you're like, it takes up your entire periphery vision, and you're in that world, and that was like the way he wanted you to see it, and so it was kind of amazing. But then I'm like, so you don't really like... There's so many flaws with like the plot, like the entire police force going in a tunnel, marching down the tunnel. But when you're in that world, you're like psyched up. Oh man, they're sending the whole police force down into that world, and I thought I really loved Catwoman. I thought she was gonna be so lame because I'm not an Anne Hathaway fan, but I really...
Oh, you're not an Anne Hathaway fan?
No.
See, I have great faith in Anne Hathaway,
right.
but she blew me away, because I was a bit dubious. I was like, oh, how are they going to play this off? And she was just amazing.
I know, she's the best Catwoman I haven't read or seen much Batman, but she's the best one I've seen, because she just did feel like a real character.
Yeah.
Which is like what Dark Knight... You know how we were talking... If you listen to Fang Tracks, and we mentioned before when I talk about Rewind, and we're talking about seeing movies in context and how they change. And I think like our generation's one, in terms of film maturity, one really big one is The Dark Knight, because that was like... You know, that went... Which is... That really said, hey, let's make this really sort of great political film in a completely politically mature film in a completely fantasy world, you know, and just took itself seriously, even though it had the stupid weird elements like the bat sonic vision or whatever.
Oh, look, it had goofy stuff all through it. Yeah. It was riddled with goof, but it managed to balance it really well, I think. You know, it
grounded itself so well.
Yeah.
I've never seen a movie. Most movies, to ground themselves, they have to just be gritty, and they have to just be...
Oh, it was pretty gritty, though.
You know, be ultra violent. That's how it this one grounded itself with the dialogue. It wasn't like... There was some great lines. It wasn't all cheesy. Which is what they went wrong with, I think, with Dark Knight Rises. Like, I just didn't believe that scene, you know, when Michael Caine quits.
Oh, that just... I was like, what the fuck? And he'd said that...
And that's, again, another scene they could have edited that to fix that problem. Like,
that was bizarre.
It obviously didn't work on set. And they should have cut it just to make it work. But rather than they're like, oh, no, we've got to keep this in for Michael Caine. I'm like, it's just not working, you know?
I think you could have even done without that storyline of Michael Caine quitting. Like if I cut the film and I saw that, I'd just be like, no, just cut that, because it doesn't matter that he quit or not. It really doesn't make any difference.
But that had that same problem in the Dark Knight with Lucius Fox. Had that same thing, like, oh, I'm going to quit if I find this morally unsound. And
well, it's and one of the biggest problems I had with The Dark Knight Rises was I found Batman / Bruce Wayne to be a wholly unlikable, unsympathetic character in that film. And I couldn't care less about him. But I found Bane and Talia al Ghul, completely wonderful and likable and sympathetic characters. Like, their fairy tale sort of backstory was so arresting and so captivating that I was like, well, they should succeed. You know, it's like yes, it's a terrible thing that they're going to destroy Gotham with a nuclear weapon. Yes, that's awful, but is it really so awful to kind of overthrow the 1%ers of Gotham? You know, this inequitable system, isn't that a just thing to do? And so I'm sort of sitting there going, well, you know, I don't think it's such a bad thing, you know? And I don't know if that's just because of my political leaning, but I just think Bruce Wayne was set up as such an unlikable, lethargic, kind of boring, almost, you know, like he'd given up. And it was like, well, why should I care? You know, and...
But then I felt like I knew that was going to happen, because he looked at the end of Dark Knight Rises, he looked like he'd given up, like...
Dark Knight Rises or Dark Knight?
Sorry, The Dark Knight, the second one. You know, like, obviously...
I think that was good. I think that's good as a storyline. I just don't think it worked. You know, I think that idea of... And, you know, it was funny, because I've deliberately avoided reading anything about The Dark Knight Rises, because I knew I wouldn't see it in the cinema and for a while. So I actually went into it not knowing anything, really. And so I was watching it and I was going, oh, this looks like a combination of the Nightfall series, the Dark Knight Returns, and what was the third storyline? I can't even remember. Oh, No Man's Land from the Batman. And that's exactly the three stories that they merged. And it was sort of like, you know, those are great stories to kind of combine, and very clever. And, you know, I thought there was good stuff, but then, some really bad decisions, I think. It just didn't come together. It's like he had all these epic elements and this massive story, and it just didn't gel. And I guess what you're saying is the editing, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I don't... I'm sure there were problems on the set, but I think it was just really badly edited. Like, where the focus was. Like, I was funny, like, I was watching this There's this YouTube channel that does like honest. I think it's called Honest Trailers.
Oh yeah.
And I think I've seen one, and their sort of complaint was like Batman's only in the film for like 5 minutes, like because he's basically has his back broken or he's away or.
Yeah, he is.
It's a Batman movie without Batman.
And I think when we discussed it, one of your complaints.
I wonder that they had so much pressure to set up. What's his name? Third Rock from the Sun guy.
Gordon-Levitt.
Yeah, Joseph Gordon-Levitt to be like the new thing they can franchise.
And I thought that was really good. And his character and Anne Hathaway's character of Catwoman were both like so much fun in the movie. And I was like, fuck that. I want those two to hook up and I want to watch a movie about those two.
Well, that's no.
Forget the other ones. I thought the ending, like the last 2 minutes or so, was far better, a far better ending than that film deserved.
Yeah.
Like the last few minutes, I was like, oh, this is awesome. This is wicked. And Michael Caine's off in Florence and you see him there and then you're like, oh, Batman's going to be there. And,
just should have, again, bad editing. They should have just ended at a nod. You didn't.
Yeah. No, you don't need to see it. No, it would have been much better if he just looked up from his coffee, seen him, smiled.
I almost shouted at the screen when they...
Yeah, that was too much. Yeah.
Especially when, you haven't seen Inception.
I haven't. But I'll see Inception. I've managed to avoid all spoilers for Inception as well.
I was about to spoil a bit.
Which is pretty amazing, don't you think? It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I mean, Inception's incredibly just as flawed, but also has awesome bits in it as well. Like, I can't even watch the end of it. Like, I can't watch the first half of the third act. It's just deplorable.
Yeah, so I don't know.
It's like you watch the 2/3 and I skip to the final scene of the movie and that's all you need. It's just this one big fight scene that goes for like an hour and I'm just like, this is just so boring.
Yeah, and
of course all the people are like, oh my god, the fight scene's so awesome. And it's, people complain about, the Superman Returns. Oh, I didn't have enough fight scenes. I'm like, what? The fight scenes that Superman wins every time?
Fight scenes, I've gotten to a point where fight scenes are just like the worst thing ever. And I was quite serious when I said last episode that I'd watched The Hobbit, Skyfall, Dark Knight Rises, and Bridget Jones's Diary all in a week. And Bridget Jones's Diary really did have the best fight scene. It really was. The Hobbit, my eyes just glazed over during the fights. I think Jackson directs the worst action sequences, just full stop. He has surrounded himself with a crew of amazing concept artists. He's working with this incredible world, so he can't really go too wrong. But when the action starts, it's a snore fest, man. It just really feels video gamey in the worst possible way.
I read some statistic that someone who studied The Last Samurai or something, who said that the longest ever fight to the death he'd seen was like 6 seconds or something.
In a sword fight?
Yeah.
Yeah. Or I think it was in strokes or something. Like how many swipes it is? It's like 6 swipes, and that's like a really long fight.
Pretty much every, and this is why I'll never make it in Hollywood. Every fight scene that I write is like, think that in mind. Like, it's the build up and then the fight scene's over.
But that's like that's how a lot of Japanese samurai films are cut together.
Yeah.
Like if you ever watch any of the Lone Wolf and Cub series, that's amazing because what they'll do is they'll set up this duel at the start, there's someone's after him and he's going to kill it. And there's just this tension building as this pursuit and this cat and mouse. And then the end, they're just standing there, and they'll just stand there looking at each other for ages and ages and they'll run and that's it. Yeah. And then one of them will die. But because you've been leading up to this one moment and it's going to be over so quick, it's amazing, and it's almost the exact opposite of what we expect from, the sort of, even from Shane, the classic Western film where the fight scenes just go on for like 10 minutes. And it's like even in the news, so much this kind of plague of people being king hit, like one hit and people are hospitalized and in a coma.
Yeah.
It's like, it's full on. You haven't seen The Hobbit, have you?
No. I'll actually probably going to see it tomorrow.
Did you see Skyfall?
Yes.
Oh yeah, we spoke about that.
Yeah.
the one thing I was the only thing I was really disappointed with Skyfall was the villain, the girl. The girl villain. Sorry.
All right.
Who was in the film for like a tiny amount of time.
Is it the Hong Kong girl?
Yeah, and
Macau, yeah.
Because the bad Bond girls are always so much fun.
Yeah.
And she was doing such an amazing job of like hamming it up in the best possible kind of way. And it was very kind of Xenia on a top from GoldenEye. It was that sort of really dangerous, really aggressive, fantastic character. And then they killed her off, and I was like, oh. Like, killed her off really quickly.
Yeah. And not in a satisfying way.
No, I actually was confused as to whether she died or not.
Yeah.
Because Bond said this sort of, he was, the bad guy... Yeah, blasé about it. Like, the bad guy said, well, what do you call that? And Bond was like, oh, a waste of good scotch or something. Yeah. And from that, I took it to mean that she flinched or something and spilt the glass, or he winged her or something. But he killed her. And I didn't actually get that. And I kept waiting for her to pop back up again. And then at the end of the film, she wasn't. And I was like... But again, boring action with all the explosions that go on and on and on and on. Although it did have a fantastic fist fight scene, I thought, with the sniper in Hong Kong. When Bond confronts the sniper.
Oh, right, yeah.
And it's just really quick.
Confusing as well, yeah.
It's really quick. It's that one shot, and it's them silhouetted against the moving billboard. I thought that was amazing and really tense. That was fantastic.
Looking Bond film I've seen. Except for the CGI, which I thought was atrocious. I think it's good. There's another thing I watched that I should talk about. But I think I've said this before in progress. I think it's going to be big. I'm sure there has to be. I feel like there has to be a big backlash against CGI because it's just becoming a joke where I just don't believe anything that's happening. I can see the wires on the puppet all the time. And I'm just like, if you can't do it for real, maybe you shouldn't do it, you know? Like,
you're talking about the figurative wires of the puppet, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you seen Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol?
No. That was the Brad Bird?
Yeah. That was quite good. That was probably the better ones recently because, I couldn't see where the CGI started and it didn't begin. There's a scene where Tom Cruise is swinging around the top of the Burj Dubai, whatever it is, and I couldn't tell what was going on. That was some of the best CGI I've seen.
Oh, as in you couldn't tell if it was...
But I have a feeling that actually filmed most of it for real,
Yeah, didn't they?
That was good. Anyway, I watched this documentary called Side by Side by Keanu Reeves.
People were talking about that at work today. I haven't seen it.
It's on Ivy.
Oh, okay.
That's why I watched it last night. And
he's talking about the future of digital filmmaking, is he?
Yeah, like the transition from celluloid to digital film, and it was actually quite good. I thought it was going to be just a bunch of people whinging about film's going away, but no, it was quite good. Like the people who were pro it, I didn't even know their names, but it was funny seeing Scorsese and that going, hey, it's just the reality that I've lived this privileged life where I can shoot film, and now I can't sit on the laurels of having the resources to shoot film. I have to actually do a good story. That's
so what shooting film's like a privilege.
Yeah, because almost. It's out of reach of the common man. You have to be powerful or rich or powerful to have access to that resources, or you have to be sleeping with the right person, rather than you can get less sub $1,000 DSLR and get really good looking.
It's insane. Because we're looking at going away later this year, and I was looking at upgrading my camera, and even the equivalent model, which is just $1,000 entry level, the same model of my camera now shoots full HD, and it's just wow. Even imagine if we had that of 5 years ago sort of thing. It's just, or 10 years ago, it boggles the mind to think. And for that cost, and you're shooting such quality, and you can pull focus, you can do all that sort of, it's not a amateurish device anymore. It's something that's really going to produce amazing results, even at that level.
I mean, the one problem, and this is the one problem that I face, obviously, is that when you do have a film camera, people respect you more. All right. And because it's costing $100 a second, worth of film, people feel the pressure to perform. It's harder when you're working with amateur actors who just aren't professional at all, and you don't have them under that kind of pressure. Sometimes they'll just screw around or don't put any effort into expect. I don't know.
You know what would be great?
Yeah.
If you were to purchase like the body of a film camera, like a broken one, it wouldn't matter. Aesthetically it looks the part, and mounting a digital camera within it, so they wouldn't know. Yeah. And you go, you get it all ready, and you're like, all right, well, we've got the can in there, we're going to film. You've got, we've got to get this thing. You start filming.
There's, don't want to spoil it too much, but there is a funny moment about that topic on that David Fincher talks about.
Oh, really?
Not about that topic, but just that idea of having a film reel on a digital camera and stuff like that.
Have you heard of this new thing, of sending like temporary digital images? It's like an app.
Yeah, Snapchat. Yeah,
Snapchat.
Yeah,
but that's going to be fraught with problems.
Oh yeah, it is.
Because if a girl sent me, just hypothetically, if a girl sent me a Snapchat invitation, I don't know how it works, but surely you get, beep, someone wants to send you a message. I just get my camera ready.
No, you don't even have to.
You just get your screenshot ready.
Yeah, you just got that. Whatever the feature is, and boom.
Yeah. As soon as I heard about it, I was like... Not only
that, is the cool thing is that because iPhones are backed up on the cloud, if you know your ex-girlfriend's password to her iCloud account, which is her buying her iTunes thing, which is something people commonly share. Yeah. Because people, can I buy this or rent this movie? And sure, here's the password for my iTunes account. It's not a password that people readily give out. Like, I know my parents' password. Yeah. You can go on there and download their entire iPhone, the contents of the iPhone, and those photos will be cached somewhere in there, and you'll be able to go in and...
it just doesn't work.
Digitize anything.
This isn't Mission Impossible, this message will self-destruct. Yeah. It's, when someone told me about it, and I was like, that's a cool idea. And then I was like, wait, no, it's not really. I mean, it's a cute idea if you're sending... if you're not sexting. But basically, it's a tool for sexting, right?
No, you'll get caught out. There was a girl at Kalis whose boyfriend uploaded, like when they broke up, uploaded the pictures she sent her to a porn site. And what was weird is they actually, someone took one of the pictures, and it you know how like the Pirate Bay, you get those
there's like dating
ads?
Sites or whatever. On the side, like Meet a Russian Bride or whatever. All that stuff.
Like it appeared in those ads.
No way.
Someone just stole it, and because they have 100 pics of girls in like little boxes. And
someone grabbed hers.
That's how she found out that it was.
No way. Are you serious?
Yeah. So
that would be the weirdest feeling, wouldn't it?
Wow. But we have to ask Fred about this because obviously he's having a long distance relationship.
Wow, this is going to be the problem.
We'll check in on his sexting adventures.
I think I know his iTunes password.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we'll get all his sausage snaps that he sends back across the Atlantic.
Speaking of that, show notes. We have show notes on fangaround.com. You can see a picture of Campbell blowing chunks into a bathtub.
Oh, wicked.
Not an action shot, a post shot.
I was going through my old iPhoto just my iPhoto because I'm up to like 70,000 shot photos or something crazy. Yeah. And it doesn't work anymore. And I was looking at like, what the fuck do you do when your iPhoto gets so big your computer won't actually deal with it?
I think you just have to copy it onto a more powerful computer.
Oh, I was just so annoying. Because now I can't even upload any more photos onto it. It'll just be like, yep, we're going to upload 500 new photos, and it'll do 2, and then it'll just turn off. It'll just go, nope, not
photos are a really hard thing to manage. Like music, I bought iTunes Match, and that that just looks after my music for you. And, you know, I mean, I think there are some limitations, like maybe 25,000 songs or something, I can't remember. But for me, it seems to be working at managing the music, and so I don't have to worry about my music. I just have it with me as long as I have an Apple device. But photos, it's hard. Like, I guess the only way to really do it is to have them on the network and then loading it. I tried that once and it was really slow, like opening iPhoto, loading when I was trying to load the
thumbnails,
the database off over the Wi-Fi or whatever.
It's not pleasant. It's not pleasant. And I know I've got duplicates of things as well. And it's like, I was looking at apps to try to get rid of duplicates, and I was kind of trying to go through manually, and then some of the duplicates are like the full file size, and some of them are like thumbnails that have then been re-imported, and so I'm like, oh fuck, I don't want to delete the wrong ones, and so it's just insane in there, and not pleasant. So it'll be interesting in the future when I migrate. I'm not really looking forward to this migration process because I just feel something's going to go wrong, you know.
Well, just make sure you have a backup of...
Hey, I've got everything backed up thrice. So, but I'm just like, no, something's going to go real wrong, you know?
Speaking of, like, you know, Talia al Ghul and Bane winning and just nuking Gotham. I saw another documentary where that would be the best solution to the problem, which was...
what was the problem?
The Vice Guide to Liberia.
What?
The Vice Guide, you know?
Yeah. I know Vice, and I know their guides, and I know Liberia.
Yes, they went to Liberia, and
they said that you should just nuke the place.
No, that's my solution.
Oh.
Because, like, there's this whole slum where they just sit in their own feces and do drugs. And they're all like young kids, like they can barely breathe because they've done so much drugs and stuff. And it doesn't look like it's almost like putting them out of their misery.
Oh, okay.
Like, and you're dealing with like 1 million people here. It's not like you can. Even Australia, if we just dropped 1 million drug addicts into Australia wouldn't even know what to do with them. Like, we wouldn't be able to have the facilities to get them all off drugs.
Yeah,
it'd probably better just nuke them, and then that's going to come across as like racist or something. But I'm not saying that you need to watch this. This is insane. This country is just... I don't know what's going on. There's just complete chaos. Like, they have... they sort of... One of the main people they go to visit is this guy called Butt Naked. And he's this general who used to go to war completely naked.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
And he used to take the children and... cut them up and feed them to his soldiers, and the idea being that if you eat an innocent child, the bullets won't hit you. And so that's what he would do to give them. And so they found this guy and met him, and now he's like like an evangelist priest kind of guy, and, spreading Jesus, and he says, he obviously has nightmares from just feeding thousands of children to his troops. But it's just so understated. It's just like so haunting. Just listen to him talk about stuff like his past, like, because now he's just like a regular guy, and he's obviously doesn't seem to be messed up by drugs like the people in the rest of the city. And it is like, this is worse than what's Joseph Conrad's book,
Heart of Darkness.
It's like that, but real and a million times worse.
So you're describing it kind of almost hell on earth.
Yeah, it is hell. You have to... The limited police there are have to go around and shut down people selling human flesh at the butchers. Like, this is like a daily thing for them.
Really?
They go into a brothel in the middle of this slum at night, and oh my god, I'm just like, what are you doing there? Like, I just don't know how the crew didn't die. There's no electricity in the slum at night, so you're just walking through with your lights on, and you just see people in the corners doing drugs, and it is the living incarnation of hell. So yeah, I recommend watching that. I think it's the Vice. I'll put it in the show notes, but I think it's the Vice guy. Anyway, Vice goes to Liberia. That's what it's all about.
Oh, gross.
Imagine just going to war, all drugged up on opiates, blood streaming down your face from eating a child, and completely naked, and just going into battle. Like,
it's quite foul. It's that sort of thing where, as an atheist, I don't really believe in any afterlife, and I don't really believe in any divine judgment. So I think, it's up to us to construct the best living conditions we can here while we're here. And for those reasons as well, I think it's, perfectly fine for, I guess, to judge other humans and their actions, because I don't believe in any sort of divine judgment. I don't believe at the end of your life, your heart is put on a scale with a feather and you're judged or any sort of things like that there's a running tally. So I think for humans to hold other humans accountable for their actions and choices is a just thing to do. But then, of course, I'm sure this general butt naked was believing he was doing just that he believed at that time he was doing the just right thing. So how do you and the thing is, like, this religion in this situation actually had a positive outcome. Like, him converting to religion encouraged so many other people to convert to religion. And now, instead of the people who did convert with him, instead of shooting people, they're like trying to build compounds and recreate the food chain and live happy. And I don't know what the Vice guy's ideology is, but the story that he was showing in the document is that, I don't know if it was intentional, that religion, bringing Christianity, I should say, because obviously those ideas of eating children was based on ideas of their own culture, but has done a positive thing, and it was almost just as disturbing, like how nice it is now, but it's all based on Christian ideals, but they just lost complete control of, just shut off from the rest of the world and just gone insane. But they see that they have that situation on a microcosm, like when Hurricane Katrina hit New Orleans and all the poor people had to shelter inside the big stadium under the roof, and there was no power in there, and people talked about getting raped and murders and stuff, and that sounded like something out of Joseph Conrad book, just in that microcosm of chaos reigning on this. It's kind of terrifying to think of what becomes of humans once the rug is pulled out from under them, Yes, indeed.
Which is interesting, like they deal with that, in The Walking Dead. It's just people just go freaking nuts.
Yeah. How much of Walking Dead have you been watching?
I'm up to date.
Okay. So you've stuck with it. Do you think the show turned a corner at any point?
Nah.
Or do you think
if you're out now, you might as well stay out.
Okay. That's what I felt. I was like, I don't feel like this is going to get me.
The most recent season was probably one of the best seasons. Well, yeah, because the second season is just at the farm. They never leave the farm until like the end. So,
but even that's fine. Like, I don't care where it's set, but I just didn't care about any of the characters. Like, I really didn't. Yeah. None of them were sympathetic.
They just get worse and worse. That's the whole idea.
The only thing, and I think the only thing that got me even slightly interested was when, and I don't know their names. There's the two there's the two cops, right?
Yeah.
The bad cop, right? He goes with the fat farm guy to the high school to get medical supplies.
Oh, right. So you got that far.
I got that far.
All right.
And he's telling the story of how the fat guy got grabbed and whatever. But then you actually see what happened, and he shot him so that they grabbed. I thought that was a great moment, and I was like, oh wow, that was decent. But everything leading up to that, everything, I was just like, whatever.
I guess if you got that far, you can keep going, but...
I didn't want to. I was just like, well... that was the only thing. That was the only, twist or interesting moment in so far in that whole program.
Yeah, well, that's where it starts getting a bit better, but not enough to go, oh my God, you got to watch this. And,
I was thinking just today, there was all these complaints, and there has been in sort of nerd culture, this sort of... this subsection of nerd culture that seems really affronted and offended and upset by the kind of contemporary depiction of vampires as being this sort of romantic, lustful, sexualized monster, And we saw it with Interview with a Vampire, and it's been part of vampire lore since the beginning of vampire stories, and throughout all cultures, there are these tales of seductive demonic spirits and whatnot. And, obviously it kind of manifested itself most brazenly in the Twilight series. But I have far less problem with that than with this sort of zombie fetish, which is almost which almost seems to capture this, I don't know, it's like a gun fetish mixed with torture porn and survivalist fantasies, it seems to be this really kind of bizarre, twisted concoction of I guess almost fetishes that it has now come to represent, and is so prevalent in a lot of nerd culture. It's this survivalist, no one else, you can't count on anyone else, guys, it's just you. And you're going to be chopping up all those humans, all the bodies. They're just like humans, only you've got an excuse. Plus, you're getting to do all that cool stuff you saw. It's tapping into all of that in a really unsettling way, I find. And I don't think I'm being too prudish because, I like a bit of that sort of slapsticky or, schlocky, horror-y stuff when it's clever. But zombies are just everywhere. And I think they kind of... discussion of zombie survivalist stuff just brings out the worst in people. Honest, even just when it's just hypothetical. Yeah. And I think we've discussed it before on Fangin' Around, where I find it really it just angers me to think that there are people really seriously preparing for this sort of zombie apocalypse. As though it's a thing. It's like, no, we've already got apocalypses happening. There's already awful shit happening. Let's go fix that stuff. Put your energy into those things, not sharpening your samurai sword and hockey outfit to, I don't know. Does that make any sense to you?
Yeah, but I do kind of understand. I don't get I don't get most of horror. I sometimes feel like, and I know some people are really into horror, and I should get them on the show just to talk about what's happening in the horror genre that's really big, and why is it important and stuff like that. Because I don't know really what I'm talking about, because I've barely seen any horror films. But it feels to me like a good horror film is a bit like a James Bond film pre-Casino Royale, where you've got to have the gadget scene, you've got to have the car doing a cool thing, you've got to have him going, I'm Bond, James Bond.
There's boxes that need
ticking, yeah. And that's what a good horror film, it's like, oh yeah, they've got a scene where someone gets their head cut off with a chainsaw, and that's good, And did you see the new Evil Dead trailer?
I did, actually. I watched it a few days ago.
And it's like, oh, this must be good. I saw everyone good. I'm guessing I didn't really understand. I guess the last shot is a bit freaky.
With the tongue?
Yeah.
On the knife, yeah.
But other than that, I was just like, I don't get it.
Yeah, for me, I was like...
Well, they had so many cutscenes, and only one scene actually affected me.
Yeah, all the rapid fire cuts and stuff. I mean, I find it strange that they're rebooting from the first Evil Dead film, because that one in the trilogy is the anomaly. It was the big one. It was the big one in terms of the breakthrough one. But the second one and the third one really introduced all these humour elements. So by the third film, it was a complete slapstick. It wasn't at all horrifying. It wasn't at all scary. but it was brilliant. Like for me, most people, they like the second one because it has that. It does have a really good blend of horror and comedy. But the third one for me was just marvelous because it was so funny, so iconic, so creative. So for me, that was my favorite. So I find it odd that they're rebooting as almost like a really hard horror film.
Yeah.
It's like, well, you've got other films that do that. You've got other series that do that.
Have you seen Cabin in the Woods?
No.
You should check that out because I think that's one of the few films I've seen that's sort of trying to go for that. The last, what's it called? Army of Darkness.
Yeah, Army of Darkness, Evil Dead 3.
No, it doesn't hit the same notes, but
no. But from what I've read, it's that sort of, it's self-aware and it's having a bit of fun with the genre and. Yeah. So anyway, that's I'm just if I never hear about zombies again, I'll be happy. Honestly, it's just so prevalent. That's my pet peeve at the moment.
I saw an amazing Eurasian today. I was going to get some bangs and mash, and there was this woman. I think she was a nurse or something because she was just she looked like she was in those sort of, I don't know, like scrub clothes or something. Those sort of daggy clothes that they wear in hospitals.
Was she wearing Birkenstocks or Crocs?
I didn't really look because I was just blown away. She was just walking down the street by herself and she's just smiling like, everyone else is in this heat wave. But she's like smiling. And she didn't seem to have a phone on her, so she wasn't talking to anyone else. Just look. I've never seen someone look so happy in their lives. And I was just like almost crashed the car, just going, whoa, That's my Eurasian update.
So Eurasian corner for the week.
Yep.
James spotted one. That's hilarious.
Okay, I've mixed up my notes. I've written half of them in here. And
do we have any fan mail or listener mail?
No, I think no.
Oh,
well, actually, I got this weird one that this may have been meant for betting the beast, but I don't know.
Oh, well, we can offer relationship advice, surely. Could we have Beast in the Beast?
Yeah. So this is
Beast on Beast action.
It says, "Dear James," it was addressed directly to me. There's a question that I have really wanted to get off my head. How would you know if a man, say a stranger, is straight or not by just looking at them or to a limited extent at their photographs? I've gathered that you...
What?
I've gathered that you are/were homophobic. I'm not. Just that I'm merely curious. It's from a female.
Okay, so there's a bit to unpack there. Okay, let's address the question first, which is, how do you know if someone's gay by looking at a picture of them?
Yeah.
You can't.
No.
No? I would say you can't.
Because there's just very little context in photos. This is one of the things I hate about photos is...
Well, even if it's a photo of someone at a gay parade, like a pride rally or something, it could just be someone who is either supportive,
yeah,
or
playing
someone bisexual,
playing a character.
So plenty of bisexual people, or you can't. What is she looking at photos of Ryan Gosling or something? What's she doing? Is she looking at photos of you?
Well, maybe. Because then she says it directly to me, I've gathered that you were/homophobic.
Is this true?
No, I don't think so. I'm not big on the whole gay culture thing, but I don't...
That's okay. You don't have to like all cultures.
I'm not... and I don't... but I'm not anti it.
Yeah.
It's like I don't like zombie films. I don't...
But you wouldn't stop anyone else having a zombie film.
Because I just don't quite get it.
Oh, okay.
I've gone to see lesbian mud wrestling. Didn't quite get the
appeal of that.
Yeah.
It's like, you're not racist if you don't like Liberian culture at the moment. Por ejemplo.
And you don't... I think a lot of gay people aren't even involved in gay culture, That whole... So, no.
So, no, you're not homophobic, and no, you can't tell if someone's gay from a photo.
No.
Yep. That's a bit of a boring answer, but just no across the board.
And I think I would say, I'll be like, yeah, hell yeah, I'm homophobic. But...
What if you were? You think you'd really be into it?
I don't hate any...
You think you'd be really into homophobia if you were into it?
This one girl asked me out, and then... But it didn't really work out. And the next time I heard about her, she was dating a girl. But I didn't hold that against the gays.
No. It happens. Sometimes, you know? Do you think you were a turning point for her?
Yeah, that's what I've just has disturbed me, but quite possibly. But she was never really open about her feelings, so
yeah,
she didn't communicate, and I...
See, it's all about communication, being open.
Yeah.
Willing to experience new things.
But thanks for writing in.
Yeah.
I'll say you're anonymous, so I don't want to give out your name. And that may have been a question for Betting the Beast as well.
That was from Fred, wasn't it?
Yeah, probably. We've got some tweets, but not really.
No questions?
No questions.
It's probably just lots of compliments and retweets and things, and favourites. We get a shit ton of those.
One guy said, have been a long-time fan of your alter egos fanning about 2 priests versus 2 politicians.
What?
I think he's joking. Maybe we should Google that. Let's check it out.
I've never heard of fanning about.
Fannying, as in
Fanny.
Fanny.
I've never... Is that really a thing? Oh, I think he's taking the mickey.
Someone asked, is fangin an Australian slang for wanking?
Yes.
Pretty much.
I would say 100%. I think in Australia just about everything is slang for wanking.
Yeah.
Would you say so, James?
You can pretty much, do that. But thanks for tweeting in. You can tweet us at Fangin' Around. You can mail us at mailbag@fanginaround.com, or just hit the listener mail page on fanginaround.com. Now, Campbell, have you gone to see the cactus in Perth?
You know what? I've driven past it. I haven't stood in presence of it. From photos and video, I like it. I approve.
I liked it, and I got to see it up close the other day, and I was impressed because it looks like it's sort of floating in air. It looks like like Luke Skywalker's hover car. It sort of floats in air the way they've sort of done it, which I think is quite cool. But then I looked up who it is. It's by James Angus, the artist, and he's done one almost exactly the same in Sydney, just with different colours. So it's not even original.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So we're just getting
thumbs down,
like a cheap Sydney knockoff. Is theirs even bigger? I bet theirs is like twice the size as well.
I think it is. Yeah, it's brown though.
Oh, that's not as good a colour. We got a better colour, but I bet theirs is bigger.
Theirs is just like a big poop right now. At least we're like, oh, it's a cactus.
Yeah, if ours had been brown,
we don't even have
would have
cactuses
freaked out. No, but we're kind of a bit desert-ish. Deciduous. Would you ever think about living in the desert? I mean, would you ever consider living in the desert? Obviously, I've just asked you to think about it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
Oh, not permanently, I don't think. I was thinking refrigerative air conditioning.
What about is it Kalgoorlie Boulder where they live underground? Is that Kalgoorlie?
No,
that's Coolgardie?
No, not Coolgardie.
Kilkenny?
No. It's where the opals are from.
Yeah, what is it?
Coolibini.
What's it called? For those listeners that don't know, there's a mining town in this. Is it in the
Coopapedy.
Coopapedy.
It's in South Australia, I think.
There's a mining town in South Australia where not everyone, but there are a lot of homes that are carved underground.
Yeah, I think they're all used old mine sites that were opal mines, and they converted them to. It's very fashionable there to live in an old mine,
and they
have an underground church.
They're very cool. because it gets to like a bazillion degrees. Whenever it gets to summer in Perth, I always think of the Chronicles of Riddick. Have you seen that? Where they escape from that prison planet and the sun's rising and there's the whole sky just catches on fire and there's fireballs and it's an inferno.
Sorry, what's this?
The Chronicles of Riddick.
Oh, right, yep.
You know the prison planet scene where they escape from it?
I don't think I've ever saw the film, but...
You should see this film. It's really amazing.
Okay.
Like, it's just so balls to the wall, sort of.
Apparently the game is really good as well.
Yeah. What is it? Escape from Butcher Bay, I think. That's always on the list of, like, best video game adaptations. You know what trailer I saw? We just spoke about trailers briefly. Evil Dead. The trailer for Pain and Gain.
All right, yep.
Looks amazing. See, Michael Bay, for me, he's so hit and miss. And for me, most of his films are just the biggest misses. But Bad Boys 2 is amazing. And this looks like Bad Boys 2, but with, like, even better writing. I don't know what's going... I don't know. Just from that trailer, though.
Yeah.
Shades of Fight Club with him running towards the camera in slow motion going, you know, my name's whatever, I'm into fitness, and then boom, he gets hit by the car. I was like, whoa, you've got me.
I think if that's the main thing holding Michael Bay up is not having good writers, you know, because I don't think he really writes himself. So when he does have, you know, some good writing behind
because he's responsible for the Transformers movies.
You didn't like the Transformers movies?
No, I didn't even see the third one. I dislike the second so much.
I love the Transformers movie. I think it's probably the best trilogy they've ever had.
What, Transformers?
Yeah.
Yeah, probably.
There's no low points in it.
Are there any other Transformers trilogies?
It's just steady, you know. No.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'd say it's the best.
Every other film trilogy's got, like, you know, dark.
Oh, sorry. You mean best film trilogy?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you meant the best Transformers trilogy.
Like every other trilogy is like blah blah blah. This is just like flat tack.
Yeah, right at the bottom, flat tack. This is like three. I don't know.
I think people should get down on their knees and thank goodness for Michael Bay. Like, imagine if what? Like, I don't know, like J.J. Abrams did Transformers or something like that. It would like.
You know who I wish did Transformers? If you're going to get a bad director.
Yeah.
McG.
No.
He did Charlie's Angels. Yeah,
no,
get McG in to do it.
No, that's exactly... Have you seen Terminator Salvation?
Yeah.
Oh, was that good?
It was alright.
What, better than Transformers?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, it was better than Transformers, I tell you that.
You used to have against Transformers.
No, I love transforming robots. But just not the Transformers movies. They should get McG to do Transformers. But not in his Terminator Salvation phase, but in his Charlie's Angels 2 phase.
Alright, the only thing good about Charlie's Angels 2 is the trailer. It's got one of the greatest trailers of all time.
That movie was amazing.
Cooper Pedy, apparently it has no trees, so they have to make one out of metal.
Wow.
Scrap metal welded together. Scrap iron.
That just shows you how Mad Max Australia really is. They live in a place with no trees, so they made one out of scrap. That's pretty incredible. Would you ever live in Cooper Pedy?
I don't like hot places, so...
A bit of a problem then. So Perth's a bit of a dud place for you, really, isn't it?
Well, it was when I was younger. Then I sort of fell in love with it again, the environment. Then we've had just 2 terrible summers in a row of just humidity. Like, I like hot Perth. I hate humid Perth. I mean, I just hate humidity in general, but Perth's so nice when it's hot and you can walk around and the breeze just wafts over you. But when it's not like that, and it's just like, you know, our floor is like wet right now.
It's pretty nasty.
I need to pimp myself out to someone who's got refrigerative air conditioning. I've just gone completely nuts. Like, I can't work. My brain just doesn't function. I can't sleep. I have, like, what do you call them? Existential crises. Like the other day, I was just like, oh, it was just absolutely nuts.
You need to hang out at the in the cultural centre.
Oh, yeah, go to the library or something.
Yeah, they got air conditioning.
I've been thinking about
and
that.
free wireless. You can just do all your shit there.
Yeah. No, that's what I need to. The battery on this. I guess they have my power.
Yeah. You just got to get there early because all the students hold the power.
Now, Cam, I was wondering.
Yeah. Wander away.
I think your lady friend, at least at one point, was pretty into Bruce Springsteen.
Yes, she is.
I was listening to this podcast about this guy whose wife is obsessed with Roger Federer, the tennis player. Like, absolutely obsessed.
Yep.
And at the start, he sort of introduced it like sort of blowing it off. It's just something that's part of his life. But then the host just sort of grouped into this idea and dug her teeth in and was like, wait, like how obsessed? And she's like, as in, she has to watch every game, no matter where he's playing in the world. So she could be up at like 2 a.m. in the morning, and some tennis matches go for 5 sets for 10 hours, and she can't sleep during that time, so it can actually affect her life.
That's how obsessed she is.
Yeah, and she's like, isn't it weird for your wife to be that obsessed about another man?
Yeah, right.
Do you ever feel this? Like, Bruce Springsteen?
Yeah, I wish I had an exciting answer like that, but no, because Liz doesn't even own all his albums.
All right, okay.
So she really likes Bruce Springsteen, but she's not that fanish about anyone.
Yeah.
Like, even the person she's most fanish about, she doesn't get into that fan mania.
Yeah.
Some people are really, really big fans of people or things.
Yeah.
Whereas she, probably out of everyone who's producing things that she has no contact with personally, the person she likes the most is Bruce Springsteen. But even then, it's like, it's not full on. I don't know, and that's interesting because I do understand that fanish, like, having to consume everything that someone's made. So it's made me reconsider a lot of that as well, because then it does come off as weird if you're a bit like that.
Well, I'm big into sports and stuff like that, so I can kind of understand that. But being just a super fan of an individual player, and tennis, an individual event, so you're just obsessed with. There's no team. There's just this man,
Yeah,
just being almost secondary, like, to that in a marriage would be just crazy in a way. Like,
well, does she?
I think of like Flight of the Conchords with what's her name?
What's her
Kristen
name?
Charles' character, who's obsessed with them, but she's
Mel.
Yeah.
She's amazing in that show. She is beyond amazing. But yeah, a bit like Mel. Yeah, and you think, well, does she go to all of her husband's board meetings and watch them? Or, like, does she cheer him on at what's her involvement with him? How much does she...
I wonder, like...
It's a lot of misplaced affection and attention, I think.
Yeah. But how we were talking about, one of the early shows we were talking about having a list... Like the
of 3 or
the
whatever.
cheat list, where the
I don't know what it's called, but I know what you're talking about.
3, I think we called it. I don't know if Liz ever came up with one, but I wonder if they asked that guy if he would ever let Roger Federer
pass
on Roger Federer, because
or would he enact a veto power
on that one, because she knows that, or would you want to set a 3 and like a boomerang and hope she comes back?
I'd probably just ditch it. With or without the list. I'd be like, why don't you go hang out with Federer for a while? It's okay to be like, oh, that person's attractive, or I like the music that person plays, but you don't have to be that obsessive, do you?
Yeah.
I really don't like that kind of... I mean, here we are talking, in the last Fang tracks we were talking about Kubrick, and I think I was more than kind of generous with my compliments of Kubrick and and my admiration for what he did. But I find that sort of when people really idolize other people's work, I find that a bit strange. It seems to be it seems to always be from people that they place that sort of success and that sort of behavior as an otherness that they couldn't possibly themselves ever hope to take part in. Or, I mean, I'm not saying everyone should be watching Roger Federer and go, oh yeah, I could do that, and be inspired to go and do it. Yeah. But I think it's like, well, these people aren't aliens. They're just very committed, and that is admirable in itself. But surely, wouldn't you then take that admiration and do something with it?
Yeah.
And I think for you as a creative person and someone who does creative endeavors and writes things and shoots things and directs things and so on and so forth, you have taken that as an inspiration rather than as a gated sort of life. And I think I've tried to do that myself, where it's like make these people inspirations rather than unachievable ends. And I'm not saying I'll ever be as as successful as Neil Gaiman or J.K. Rowling or Roald Dahl or Richard Scarry or anything like that. But it's like, well, I'm not going to let their greatness belittle my attempts at greatness. Does that make any sense to you?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, it is a funny thing, like amongst the Fangin around crew, like Fred, Harry, James, and Campbell. Everyone has sort of similar tastes in music, and obviously not everyone in the group likes cinema, but and stuff like that. But the one outlier that I find is I'm the only one who's like interested in sports at all. I'm a big fan of like the West Coast Eagles and the Socceroos, and
you're on your own with us.
Glory.
Yeah.
And do you guys like? It's so weird for me that you guys aren't fans of something that's like, a regular thing, like a sport. Yeah. I don't know what any other equivalent would be other than a sport. Because it's like, oh, I'm a fan of a movie, but a movie comes out and you see it and that's it,
Yeah, but I think with trilogies and things or movie series, you can get like that. Not the same. I'm not saying it's the same, but because when there's a series, when there's going to be 4 films, or there's going to, like when Lord of the Rings came out, it was like I saw the first one a few times and I was like, this is wicked. I can't wait for the next one, and the next one. Whoa. So that's annual. It's a bit different. And now the Hobbits, it's like it's going to be that same sort of thing. But yeah, I just sport just holds really no appeal. And the few times I've watched sport, very few times, I have been able to get into it and enjoy it, but I'm not interested in the upkeep of following. Like it does. Yeah. It doesn't interest me enough to commit to watching X Games or following a season. And I know I'm quite an
when
anomaly.
You watch it, if it does capture attention, it's the athleticism or maybe the stagecraft. If it's I
can appreciate things of it, and then it does sometimes capture me on a sort of
pop culture thing, like
as a
Ben Cousins becoming like this.
Oh, not so much that
character in the media, and stuff.
But more of a like watching a game. I can get wrapped up in it on a and I don't mean this in a belittling way, but I just don't know how to explain it any other way. But on a sort of primal level. Mm-hmm. Like I feel sort of an adrenal rush of whoa, if I pick a side, I'm like, I'll just go for this side, whoa, and I can feel those things, and not on the same degree that you would watching things, but I get it on that, but I don't know beyond that.
But it's
but my dad's into sport. My dad's really into sailing, so he watches sailing. He's really into rugby. He's really into tennis, so he watches all those things, but. didn't really rub off on me. And I used to play field hockey.
Yeah, but that's the funny thing I was about to say is that like I play hockey, have played pretty much my whole life, but I just don't have the slightest interest in watching it.
Really? That's really funny.
I watch AFL, and I would never play AFL, but I think it's like one of the best spectator sports.
Okay.
And there's probably other examples of sports that I watched. And AFL's weird because I'm so locked to the Eagles, I can't really enjoy it as a... I don't enjoy it at all. I find it really hard because it's only enjoyable like the once every 10 years that the Eagles won the grand final.
It seems like this real flagellation thing for people.
It stresses me out. My whole mood is defined like it's like a women's period, but it's every week, for the winter season,
Yeah, and people get like that, and I see it at work, and I'm just like, fucking chill out, man.
And I see that how it's irrational because it's so meaningless, like because they're just going to have a new season the next year, I mean, obviously with the World Cup, it's more of a big deal because they're sort of historic events, but
people love but it becomes more than just, I like, like you're saying, like you're expressing. It's not so much, I like to watch a bit of football or I like to watch a game. It's like, no, my team is this team.
Yeah.
Regardless of anything. And I've just got to wear that for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And
but I enjoy being part of something, like it's like, we lost on the weekend, even though I didn't play.
Yeah.
But you're part of like a whole thing like that. The last time Eagles won the grand final in 2006, like walking through Perth, like the city just had this weird, but just this buzz that's so unique, And I think they tried to capture that with what was that fever pitch with the best thing to see what it's like is to watch Fever Pitch, which is based on the book by Nick. I can't remember, but the guy who wrote High Fidelity.
Nick Hornby?
Nick Hornby, yeah. It had Colin Farrell in it. It's just a weird thing to get attached, but it's like, because I mean, like cricket, I watch that just for the spectacle because it's just so boring when Australia wins that I quite often go for the other team, even though they're not my team. In other sports, I'm always going for the underdog. I want that upset rather than,
Yeah, look, sport, I don't get it. It's not for me. And you're even into really into Formula One as well.
Yeah.
So what do you follow? You're into like Formula One. I
guess my team is McLaren, but I'm not that passionate. I just like a good race, and I love seeing where.
Okay, but that means you're into Formula One.
Yeah, and I like the tactics of Formula One. I don't
because
care
lots of people watch.
Driver.
Lots of people watch and follow AFL.
Yeah.
Even if they're not that into it, like it's culturally a thing to do.
The national sport.
Yeah,
at least for some states.
Yeah. But so I think you actually really have to be interested in Formula One to watch it or follow it at all.
Yeah, well, it gets boring sometimes, but sometimes, I mean, that's a funny thing about Formula One is because it's all about the rules and it's about the team that implements the rules in the best way, and it's all sort of tactics. Like all the drives are pretty much as good as each other, like you get the worst driver on the team in the fastest car and the chances are he's going to be in top 3,
Right. Someone should sponsor a race, just get around the track. You got to do 20 laps or whatever. No rules.
Yeah. Oh,
like whatever.
Yeah, whatever goes, yeah.
Or say, it's got to have 4 wheels.
Yeah.
Go. Yeah. Any size 4 wheels, we don't care. Just do it. Let's see what happens.
Yeah. But then the problem with that is usually just the richest team wins. I mean, that's the other thing about the America's Cup. I don't know if your dad's following that, but that's so interesting to me. Like, I couldn't be bothered watching the actual race, but following the teams building these yachts and finding all these loopholes in the rules and using crazy technology to make where money is, these teams are sponsored by like billion-dollar companies, so there's money is not an option. It's like building a supersonic aircraft. That really sort of interests me, like that problem solving. And it's a bit weird to call Formula One a sport as well. Like, it's more of an event. You see how it turns out. I mean, the drivers are insanely like fit people, like, to just survive.
Are they really tiny, like jockeys?
No, they're not.
Oh,
but I think they do build the cars around them.
I had an image. I was thinking about Formula One just recently, and I thought, because the cars, I think I was looking at a picture of them. Oh no, I had to draw one recently. So it wasn't that recently. Sorry. It must have been months and months and months ago, probably 6 months ago. But I had to draw a Formula One car, so I was looking at them, and then it was only then that I really realised how tiny, like how narrow they are and how tiny they are. You see a picture of any car and you kind of generalise.
Before the whole safety overhaul, they were tiny. They were like go-karts, And now they have to be a certain size so that when you crash, it can absorb the shock and keep the drivers alive. But before then, when they didn't give a stuff where you lived alive, it's just how fast you went.
Yeah.
There were tiny little cars with just this mega engine. The speed records on the tracks will never be broken again because they will set in this era where you can just go as fast as, that was the...
Oh, really?
The thing was going as fast, but not as safe as possible.
Yeah. But then it got me thinking, well, are the racers, the drivers, are they like jockeys in that they, the lighter you are, the better for the vehicle and stuff,
Possibly. I think they all get
probably get
equalised out. Like, I think you have to, they weigh them at the end of the race, so to make sure people aren't doing dodgy stuff like...
Oh.
Yeah. So I think if you have a heavier driver, you can put more fuel. Heavier driver, you can put less fuel in or something like that. I don't know how it works exactly, but...
Oh, okay. I mean, obviously, you can't do that with a horse, obviously. Cool. So what's new with projects for you, James? What are you up to? We haven't done any project updates. Working on anything at the moment?
No. Just need to find a way to get some money. That's it.
How much money do you need? Did you didn't take advantage of that Screen West 3-to-1 possible thing?
No, I wanted to see how that... Well, I didn't have a producer who was interested in producing, and I wanted to see how it went down, and it went down just as badly as I thought.
What do you mean?
Like, it was from what I could tell, it's pretty clearly rigged. Because the money ran out in 8 hours because I guess a bunch of people, and this is something that's common on Kickstarter, right? If you're going for $100,000 on Kickstarter and it's on the 29th day and you've got $90,000 there, you go to the bank, get a $10,000 credit limit extension on your card, and you put
it on so you don't miss the rest of the cash that you've had funded. Yeah.
So people were doing that on the very first day, boom, because there's only $200,000.
There's no rules about it.
There's only $150,000 they're giving out, so they know that all these projects are competing for that money. So it's just whoever, and supposedly they're going to go back and check all the donors, but I don't know how they're going to follow the money on that. I'll be interested to see how that goes back. Because it was just like that, it's gone.
Yeah.
So the people who had... It was like the people who probably had the funding... Either they did that, like they loaded up their credit cards to get this money, or they had people... all the projects were by people who had the money funded anyway, and they just used their money that they'd already been funded to pay the amount they went in,
Yeah.
It was just so dodgy.
So within 8 hours it was all gone, was it?
Yeah, and they're all... It was like I think one of the 3 projects that funded looks interesting. Like people actually contributed money because it looked good. The other ones look so bad. It's like
I only saw
some guy's mum picked up a camera and got $330,000.
I only saw one that was like the Thomas Edison claymation thing. I don't know if you saw that.
Maybe. I think that
There's a claymation.
Possibly is the girl who animated the Sons of Rico video clips. I think she was doing that.
Oh, okay, probably.
Also, some people ask for way too much money. Like this one group that I follow on Facebook got theirs because even though other people were showing out the money, but they only asked for like $6,000, which is what I would have done. But I don't. Where am I get $6,000? Like we can't even get that many people listening to the podcast. Like.
Yeah, I watch. Liz and I were talking about Kickstarters and Possibles and things, and how these campaigns work. But
that's another thing, right? Why Fangin Round is kind of important to me is that, like, if we can build up, like, a Twitter following on here later on, our listeners can help us out later on, and to boost that up.
Yeah,
because they're getting something every week rather than I'm writing something now. I'm working on some writing stuff that I set. I gave myself like a 2-year period, and I'm only 1 year into it, so I'm not gonna be out there trying to sell anything for another year. So I've got to Fangin Round as my sort of product for the next. We've done it for a year now, and I've got to do it for another year. So people still know I'm alive on the internet, because that's how people follow you and do your stuff. And the same for you.
Yeah. Like I'm burrowed in working on a project at the moment, which is really long and big, and I've kind of tossed and turned about how much to make it public and what to do with it, because I love watching other people's blogs and production blogs on how their project's developing and things, but I just haven't felt like I've wanted to do that. So I release like little screenshots, but I haven't really talked about it all that much, which is something I'm sort of like, well, maybe I should just be openly producing this thing, like really, really lay it all out, because I love it when other people do it. But then I'm like, I don't know if I want to do that myself. Like, I don't feel like it's that interesting to be doing it, or maybe I should be a little more secretive, and just be like, boom, here's this thing, But then that doesn't work, because so it's almost like I'm doing exactly what I shouldn't be doing. Does that make any sense to you?
But I think you got to.
Or do you just have to be true to what you feel?
Yeah, I don't know. I think because I think Kickstarter is going to, for the next 5 years, it's going to be the future, at least. It's going to be the future of independent, anything. So, and the only reason you get successful is based on your following. So you just got to always be producing content so people find out who you are and follow you, like.
Yeah, and the thing with the thing with Kickstarter, it's fantastic, and I kind of toss and turn about what to do with this project, which is like, in the end form, I want it to be a publication, like a physical product. And Kickstarter is amazing and inspiring, but it's, it works for comics as a pre-order system. And for a lot of Kickstarter and Possibles, it's a pre-order system essentially. And so, you see these Kickstarter projects that are funded to the tune of, $100,000, $200,000, et cetera, and up. And I think Ryan North recently had that, To Be or Not to Be, that Shakespearean Choose Your Own Adventure. Did you see that? And I think that was funded to the tune of like over $500,000.
I've been following this Peter Pan novel, graphic novel.
Oh, okay. I haven't seen that. I think
I actually follow us on Twitter. Shout out to.
Cool. I'm going to have to check that out. You have to shoot it my way.
I'm sure. I think it's like Neil Gaiman's wife or someone's famous wife doing it.
Oh, Neil Gaiman's wife, right? Because she's
the magician. She's the magician.
No, she's a musician.
Yeah. No, it's not. It's someone like that, like someone who's already sort of established. So,
well, that's the thing. And like Ryan North, like he's amazing and fantastic, but he's connected through. Right up his pants in the best possible way. So, of course, his thing, he's got huge following already. So, if you've got this huge following, then these people already want this thing from you. But if it's a new thing, well, people don't know that if they want it or not. It's not going to work necessarily. Yeah. And it's so tragic looking at Kickstarters that have failed, or Possibles that have failed. And so much of it's to do with not having the social network to draw upon,
Yeah.
And of course, with internet media, we're more able to do this than ever before, but yet still it is difficult for some of us,
Do you know Rob Brydon?
No.
Did you ever see that you might have seen on YouTube, there was him and Steve Coogan doing impressions of Caine, the guy, Butler from Dark Knight. Michael Caine?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, no.
Did you ever see that YouTube clip?
No.
Well, those guys are comedians. They do stuff together, him and Rob Brydon, a lot. And he did this... I mean, this is one thing I'm thinking about, like extra content to put out, you know, that I can afford to do without asking for money. Well, first of all, there's a podcast by the guy who plays Crichton on Red Dwarf. The robot on Red Dwarf.
Oh, yeah.
And he's the host of Scrapyard Challenge. Oh, the cat's brought us something to eat.
Oh, no. But he does that great podcast where he gives people lifts, doesn't he?
Yeah, in the car.
Yeah.
Oh, no, that's another cat.
Do we need to get rid of it?
Possibly. Anyway, Rob Brydon ages ago did this like almost like it's like a one-person show where it's just him driving on his commute, and he's telling a story to like the camera that's in the car, basically, or like it's like he's talking to himself, but the audience in your head, you know, they're talking out loud about his relationship with his wife, and it's really quite funny. And it came out ages ago. I don't even know where you can find.
With Steve Coogan.
Yeah, but
I remember
Gavin
watching it on
Stacey?
SBS, right? And he's divorced from his wife.
Yeah,
and it was like super depressing. I remember that show. It was haunting. Sorry, I thought you were talking about the guy from
Marion and Jeff was the show.
It was amazing.
And Keith is a taxi driver who records a monologue on his video camera, which... Oh, possibly is it out on DVD now since I last looked. I have to buy it. Keith is a taxi driver who records a monologue on his video camera, which relates the story of his failed marriage after his wife, Marion, left him for work college with Jeff. But basically, it's just him. But maybe perhaps in the last episode...
I think he goes into the house or something with the camera.
And Steve Coogan's probably there. Well, but I think he uses that character, Keith Barrett, in other stuff. So maybe this is just one like little spin-off project he did for this character. Anyway, I want to do something like that where it's just a car ride, the basic idea is just a commute, and people sort of tell their story on the way to work, and just might be like, you know, 2 scenes each episode.
Yeah,
and it'll be go for like less than 5 minutes, you know, per episode. That's, you know, like I'll literally get one of those cameras you can just mount in the car with fisheye lens, and that's kind of it.
Is it scripted or is it real? Are you getting real people's commutes?
No.
That'd be kind of funny.
You know, it would be the characters had learned the story. Like I write them a story to tell, and they have to retell it in their own words.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Because the hardest thing to do is get non-professional actors to get them to learn lines.
Yeah.
And what I've found in the past, sometimes if you just
give them a story,
and then just tell them to tell it in your own words, you know, obviously you can't just say, "Oh, I went to the toilet and did a poop at the end."
Yeah.
You have to tell it.
Oh, I don't know. Some directors
hit certain story beats along the way, and that's the whole project. And there's this one guy who wants to be in it, but then he's also like his life partner is trying to make it big in the US, and so he's sort of torn between being there with her, but there's visa issues, and I'm just like, it's just so hard to find, you know, I have to do it as a podcast. Like, you've got to turn up and we shoot it every Tuesday night or whatever each week, and you're not getting paid. It's just exposure. But it's so hard to convince people like in Perth to do that kind of thing, because either they want to get paid because they want to do it professionally, or they don't want to be reliable.
Yeah, right.
But there's people out there. I just don't know how to find them. I don't have the social skills to go out and find these people.
Have you thought of asking Bonnie? Not necessarily to be an actor, but for...
Isn't she like always busy?
No, not to be an actor, but for recommendations, because she knows like everyone.
Yeah.
And she'd be happy to help. She would. You should hit her up. Hit her up on Facebook.
Well, I was hoping just to get some young
She knows everyone, so she'll be able to help you out.
So that's one thing I'm considering doing.
Cool.
But, what about you?
I'm just working on home time still.
So thinking about a possible...
No, Liz is thinking about doing a possible campaign for a project she wants to do this year. So we're looking at how they all work and stuff and how to get it functioning. And yeah, so that's that. And then with my one, my graphic novel, I'm finishing the second chapter probably next week. And then I'll start working on the third chapter. And once the third chapter is complete, like fully illustrated, then I'll start sending it off to publishers and get people, I'll just send it off to everyone and see if anyone bites. Because it's just the sort of thing, like, I just want a yes, you know what I mean, from someone.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just like, just say yes. I don't even care if the advance is shit. Just say yes, so I know I've got a goal to work towards and a deadline. And I can take time off work, I can bust a gut and get it done. But it's sort of that,
You can't risk taking the time off work and losing all that money when you might not get a yes.
Yeah, or, it would just be a really, really big boost, a confidence boost, and to know that something was going to happen to it. And, I would like to do it through a traditional publishing method because I don't have a big following. Like I can't go, here's a Kickstarter, oh shit, now I've got 200,000, I can do it and get a wage. Like, it's just not going to happen. I don't think so.
The other way you do it, viral videos, Campbell.
Like of a cat pooping on a piano and then playing the piano with its poop.
You've already got it down.
I know how these things work, man. I'm all about viral videos. What do you think was worse? Like a lot of TV ads and ads and things, now we're using swiping, like how an iPhone works or a tablet device, swiping things on the TV. Have you noticed that? You don't watch a lot of TV.
No, I don't.
Lots of ads, swiping through things. Like a big hand comes up.
Oh, right.
Yeah, like a huge hand comes up as though... Or things are swiped as though you're looking at an iPod. But now everything's all about, like, viral videos. Like, all these ads are like, oh, yeah, viral video, yeah. And it's like, what the fuck?
Well, I don't think it's a new thing. That's been around.
With ads, though?
Yeah.
Yeah? Oh, I've just noticed a whole bunch of more ones. Maybe they thought that trend had died down enough that they could revive it. Talking about reviving things, I listened to this segment on Radio National where they were talking about nostalgia for VHS, where people have this nostalgia for, VHS. In the same way that some people have a nostalgia for vinyl records and they love the warmth of it, And people are like, yeah, I love like how analog it is and how the tapes degrade over time and, how you physically, you have to hit rewind and it actually rewinds the object. And I was like, that's just crazy. VHS was shit. Like I understand VHS changed everything, blah, blah, blah. But really, as a thing, it's a crap thing. Like I can kind of understand with vinyl records, that, these are analog sounds where there's an analog object, you're creating these sounds. There is a magic to that. But with film to video, VHS, there's so many weird transitions that occur in between. That it's in no way... Well, I guess a vinyl in no way represents Bob Dylan singing in a studio, so I don't know what I'm talking about. Any comments on VHS?
Well, I agree. The same thing, like people so keen on CDs, but CDs are crap sound quality. Like if you're going to get that nerdy about CDs are terrible, awful sound quality, They're like 44 kilohertz. Most music's recorded at 192 kilohertz.
Right.
They're only 16-bit. Most music's recorded at 32-bit. It's just terrible. If you're going to be that picky... There's going to be a cat fight in a second.
Where's the other cat?
It's probably teasing her through the window.
Oh, really? She knows there's another cat, doesn't she?
Yeah. Cats on the internet. This will be our biggest episode ever. What was I talking about?
CDs are awful.
Oh, awful sound quality. But yeah, I've downloaded an episode, but I haven't watched it yet. This comedian, I think it's called Dave Attell or someone, he has this show called Dave's All Porn on Showtime, and it's like Fang Tracks, but he's doing it over porn, and he gets some of the original porn stars and like some of his comedian friends, and they talk over these old porn films, and he talks about he likes the feeling of getting the VH tape in and putting it in, and it, like being more of an experience than just open up RedTube and just going, in 5 seconds, So I found that interesting, like as a nostalgia in terms of porn. But he's not talking about the quality because he doesn't care about the quality. It's just the process of doing it. Like
it's a part of all of it, right? It's the everything.
But I mean, if you grow up, there's that comfort feeling of I remember being young and 20 and getting my first porn tape, putting it in and going, oh my god,
right. So just in terms of quality, you're talking about CD quality, and one thing that's recently come up in terms of another step in quality was, and we're going back to this notion of The Hobbit, and it being filmed at 48 frames per second, and Peter Jackson going, well, like, why is 24? What does that even mean? Like, if 48, like, if you're saying 24 is better than 48, then is 22 better than 24? Is 10 better than 24?
Yeah.
Like, why is 24 the magic number? And he's like, we should just be like as many as we can.
I wonder if they had made like 30 frames per second or above the standard back then, what would we feel when we saw a 24 frame? If someone was like, oh, I'm going to do it in 24 frames now.
Yeah, I don't know.
Would we go, that feels better? Or would we go, that feels weird?
I think you'd think 24 was weird.
The weird thing about, I mean, that we live in a completely different world in Australia, and this is what you notice on Side by Side, that doco, is that PAL, video in Australia, PAL and Europe, is 25 frames per second, which is only 1 frame difference. Right, so even when you shoot on crappy video in Europe, it looks way more cinematic than when they shoot video in the US. They do that 30 frames per second. It looks so weird. But then they've lived their whole lives where they go to the cinema, see it in 24, come back, see it in home, watch it in 30. They have that disparity. So they're always going to notice it, rather than us. We've grown up the privilege of watching ABC TV and whatever, these ABC dramas and BBC dramas that are filmed at 25 frames per second, and they still look pretty good because they're really close to the film angle. And they showed how the Dogma 95 films or whatever, that came out of Europe, and so they were filmed at 25. So when all the American films were like, oh, we can shoot DV as well, but they're shooting at the NTSC 30 frames per second, and their digital films look awful compared to...
Right.
To my eyes.
Yeah. Because the 48 frames with The Hobbit, the first couple of scenes looked really weird. They look like it's sped up.
But I hope that the fact that they just doubled it, you wouldn't notice it as much as compared to going 24 to 30. Right. Seems so weird to me.
It's weird, and it's weird. I found it most weird because the opening sort of shot is Bilbo Baggins in his house, and he's just doing sort of normal things. Like picking things up and writing a letter. But it looks super sped up because he's doing really normal things. But when they're off doing adventure-y things, it looks normal when they're doing less normal things. You don't notice it as much. But I mean, and then I went home and I watched, like the day or two after, I watched The Dark Knight Rises, which is shot in 24 frames a second. And it looked kind of weird. Admittedly, I wasn't watching it in the cinema. I wasn't watching it on Blu-ray. I was watching a DVD. So it wasn't the best quality. But it did look kind of smudgy or something. Like, it was kind of like, oh, after that hyper clarity.
Yeah.
And again, it's completely different, huge digital projection.
I don't know how you saw your projection. Like, you might have been watching in 4K, which is a lot higher than I assume you're watching on DVD.
Yeah. But then the other thing, what is this? Like, The Hobbit was filmed at 5K.
Yeah.
Which is just like, I'm looking at this graph here of...
Yeah, I mean, it's filmed that. I don't know what your projector's projecting at when you go see it, so...
I mean, just, looking at the in terms of like the resolution.
Yeah. I mean, that's it. The ultimate aim is that you're eventually going to be looking at basically a window or a mirror at its perfect resolution, like to your eye.
Yeah.
That's the eventual aim, and that's what he's heading towards, but it's going to be bumpy roads until then.
Yeah. And
I don't mind that weird frame rate when you're filming it like a documentary, like we're used to a documentary filming it because it's being documented and it's trying to capture real life. When you're specifically going out to make a film, that's where it breaks down. Trying to film it in a film language, but trying to make it more real. Yeah. Well, real life, when people actually document real events, it doesn't look like that at all. Because they don't have time to set up a weird shot with a fancy angle. Like that was what I had the problem with Public Enemies. Like I think you've only seen the trailer.
That looked horrific.
And the movie itself, great movie, love the story, but they're constantly getting taken out by the fact that they're trying to film it hyper real lighting, but using the same film language with the shots lined up and stuff like that, and it just looks like a homemade. It looks like an amateur film. Like, I want to do cool shots like Steven Spielberg in my backyard. That's what it ends up looking like.
Yeah, and I think The Hobbit, it's jarring. Like when they're in the underground goblin kingdom, these vast mines, and there's this huge goblin ogre lord king, and it's wonderful. You don't notice, you're just going, wow. Yeah. But it's when the characters are just like walking down a corridor or something, that's when it looks weird. Yeah. When it's at its most normal or believable, that's when you're most aware of it. But yeah, I mean, it's like, well, why stop at 48? Why not go...
Well, video games are usually at 60 frames per second.
Yeah, well, what's with that? Why do we go that,
I think they do 60 frames per second because that's the limit of the human eye.
That's the theoretical limit.
So, in theory, when we get cinema that looks like you're just looking out a window, it's going to be at a minimum of 60 frames per second.
So why didn't you go for 60? Or, whatever, 24... What do you go? You go 48,
well, because...
you go...
I think he doesn't want to look like... He wants to make it less like video because NTSC is 60 frames per second, basically.
We could go for 96.
Technically 60...
even higher. What would it look like? I wonder if he did any tests at like even high. Could it film at even higher speeds?
I think they do because slow motion, obviously, you're doing a lot higher speed.
And that's the other thing that, I don't know if you see some films where, and I remember Mad Max, right? Mm-hmm. I think it was Mad Max 2 I watched recently. And, a lot of the car chases in that, they've sped it up and it's noticeable.
Yeah, yeah.
But if you're filming something at 24 frames a second and then you speed that footage up, right? Mm-hmm. Essentially, you've captured more frames per second than for the action. Is that right?
I don't know what you're trying to achieve. I
don't know what I'm saying here.
I mean, slow motion, you'd film it... Normally, you would film at 48 frames per second, then play it back at 24 to get a half speed. Is that...
Yeah, but with this, you're filming 24 frames a second. So say you're filming 24 frames a second of 4 seconds worth of footage, and then you're speeding it up so it's only 2 seconds worth of footage. I mean, it's not like you're then showing...
Well, because they're playing back at 24 frames per second, you actually have to cut the frames out so that you're only showing 12 of the originally shot frames. Because until they bring out projectors that can change their
frame rates,
all the time. I don't know whether that will happen in the future or not. But you know what the future is?
No.
I mean, this is the whole point of the side by side is that they're whinging about film going out, but in the scheme of things, it was only around for 100 years. In 400 years, it's going to be like a blip in the eye, Yeah. I don't think that many people will be watching films
that were filmed.
Yeah, when you can just put... have you seen the Oculus Rift? You put it on a helmet and you've got two screens, you're seeing 3D and you're just in the world.
But, I mean, I think that, like with any sort of technology that people have grown up with, they view it almost as less of a technology and more of an organic, natural thing. So it's like, you know, like a director who's growing up with celluloid, celluloid, yeah, not cellulite, celluloid, and is growing up with that being the normative way of making a film. The chemical process, the light going through, hitting these little bits of plastic that then have to go through this liquid process in a that is insane. That's an insanely complex, technical. It's a really high-tech, bizarre, convoluted way of getting that job done.
And basically, the Hollywood industry was built on the fact of doing that efficiently. You know, they had to create a whole industry. It's like going to a factory and you're doing process, step by step.
Yeah. But it's artificial. It's just as artificial as a way of making an image as using this red eye camera or whatever. It's no different. It's just the technology of the time. And I just find it weird when people hold on to things as though, or uphold things as though they're somehow better because they're older or there's more tradition. Especially when it's something as recent, like you said, as film, which has been around 100 years. Like, come on.
The other interesting conclusion I'll spoil for you from Side by Side is that at the moment, the best way to archive your film is still to print it onto film.
Oh, really? It's the most stable, right?
Yeah, because, I mean, you've had hard drive failures and lost stuff. Yeah. You know, I had just a big one. We lost the lost episode Fangin. It's, even though I had 2 backups, I lost both of them, you know?
Yeah. It just happens. Yeah.
And the more data we're generating, they're getting bigger and bigger. They're shooting 5K for our Hobart at 48 frames per second. That's a lot of data. Then they've got 2 cameras for 3D, so it's double that. Plus all the sound, high quality sound they're recording, and then all the special effects data of all the compositing.
Well, and I'm sure you can shoot, because you're shooting digital, you can just shoot a shitload more. So they're probably just going, you shoot it.
I think I'll try and remember to put it in the show notes. I haven't read it yet, but I'm pretty sure there's a really interesting article on the internet. I've heard people talking about that. I've been meaning to read about converting Monsters, Inc. into 3D, and I think they sort of cover all the conversions Pixar's done of how they've had to deal with going back and looking at trying to recover that data that they generated on computers back then, you know, because the hard drives weren't big enough to store the information of Toy Story back in 1995, so they had to store data on tapes and stuff like that. And a lot of places still have to store stuff on tape because it's just so much, you know.
Yeah, I'm sure I remember hearing something about that with... the fuck was it? Was it with Pixar? Where they were going back through, some old files and they couldn't read some of them or something because, they just weren't compatible with the software or
the hardware that they had now.
And they were like having trouble accessing some stuff, and it was like, oh my God, things are changing so quickly. Yeah. It's like my dad, he backs everything up on tape offsite as well. You know, like he's got a whole backup system. Yeah. But because of his buildings that he does, and he has to be accountable for them for, I don't know how long, for like the life of the building. Yeah. If something happens, he needs to be able to prove that he designed the building to these specifications. So he's got all these tapes off-site that contain the data because it's the best way to store it, you know? It's funny, yeah.
And that's just interesting because, you know, in theory, with these 3D animated films, you should be able to just press a button and the computer will just re-render based on where the eye is. You know, if you've got the software done to do that. Obviously, they have to develop software that allows you to just press a button and do it, which is probably pretty hard. But then you have to deal with the whole archival process. I'm sure the most recent films, it's really easy. They've probably got it stored on a server just on an API files. But it's a much even bigger concern in like video games. Because they're an art form, but they don't make the console players anymore. And some people say that the emulators are technically illegal. And there's people who are making emulators that are, you know, theoretically they're great. Emulators are going to be great for preserving this art form. So you can go back and play those old games on any device you have, but they're technically illegal.
Yeah. I mean, I was really struck by that when I was in Melbourne and I went to the Game Masters exhibition, which is a history of video games, and it was an incredible exhibition. But it just made you really aware of how generational the life of these games is, and not just generational in terms of biological generations of humans, but generational in terms of like 3-year game cycles or 4-year game cycles. Like, you know, once that game cycle's up, no one plays that game anymore. Or, you know, like it's accessible to such a small amount of people, and you know, it's just mind-boggling. Or games that are no longer published, and it's like, well, that's it. You can get, you know, you might be able to access it. A ROM off the Pirate Bay or something if you're lucky, but getting some old games to work, and it's just fascinating. You think, God, this is like the birth of an industry, and we're sort of at risk of losing 99% of it, you know, before the century's out of its life. And it's really interesting. And then looking at, you know, because obviously the birth of video games was in the arcades, you know, so there's a lot of people taking care of the old cabinets, but a lot of them are gone, you know, and they have unique control mechanisms that are built into the cabinet that you can't replicate on any sort of controller. You just can't. And so it's really wonderful going to that exhibition and being able to play games like Centipede on the original controller, and going cabinet to cabinet. And each fucking cabinet had a different place, like a different way of interacting. You know, some of them had a trackball, and some of them had dials and knobs and levers, and each time it's like there's something completely new. It blew me away. And I spent most of the exhibition, I went through the whole thing and had a crack at most games and had a good nose around, but it was really the early arcade stuff that amazed me, with the inventiveness and you know, there are no rules, and it had these amazing descriptions of, you know, well, these guys decided to use 2, you know, memory cards in sync, and they used one for this and they used one for that or whatever, or just the different technical roguish things that they were doing to achieve these results when, no one knew. There was no normal. It was just anything goes, and incredible results. And the vector graphics that were going on. You know, they were stunning. I was, you know, looking at these things just going, this is unbelievable. And I think we were playing, I don't know if it was Asteroid, but the missile lights were just so bright. Like it was like they were like, it was like a moving LED or something. It was so piercingly bright from the screen. Anyway, I loved it. Absolutely. There was a game called Tempest that I spent ages playing, and it was just incredible.
All right, I think I've heard that. That's the other thing about the irony of you know, the Hollywood industry fighting so hard to shut down the Pirate Bay and YouTube and stuff like that. And they've become this amazing archival source of all this stuff. I've heard of directors who have lost control of the content that they directed, you know, 20 years ago. The publisher who owns the rights refuses or can't afford to publish out on DVD. So there's no legal way for him to even own the content. He's had to go on to Pirate Bay.
Yeah.
He's had to go on to Pirate Bay just download a copy of his own stuff, and he's relying. The Pirate Bay is peer-to-peer, so he's relying on taking it from everyone else's copy.
Yeah.
And that's the best way, almost. The Pirate Bay is the best thing to happen to art in a way, because there's millions of copies of these films going out there.
Yeah.
And then chances are that if some big bad thing happens to the internet, people will dig up a hard drive the other day, they'll work out how to get it spinning again, and they'll be able to discover this amazing art form. But if it's the only place stored is in the studio's lot in California, and bloody
it's foolish. And then another company buys them,
volcano goes off,
or you know, or that company they go bankrupt. They're bought out by another company that doesn't particularly care for 90% of their stock, or you know, or their back catalogue. They just liquidate it, and that's it. It's gone. Why would you keep that stuff? Anyway, I think we better wrap up. It's getting late.
Yes, and there's some weird beeping song. I'm sorry about the sound, the echo and everything, but we'll hopefully be back in the shed.
It's a wild,
possibly with some new panel members.
Yeah, I've invited 2 new people on.
If not, we'll be, hopefully, if we're back in the studio, we'll be able to do a Fang track or something as well.
Fang track. Yeah, tonight was a bit of an anomaly, but you know, we're about delivering content regardless
content.
Regardless of whether you want it or not.
Now, if you want to follow Campbell White, so in case he does do a possible Kickstarter.
You know, maybe look, please give me millions.
Go to campbellwhite.com and check out follow the Home Time Bell project. Is it still called that, or just called Home Time?
Just called Home Time now, but we'll see.
And all these amazing other artwork. It's insane.
There's all sorts of other stuff.
Yeah. You can see my photography and weird old short films at gimmerish.com. You can find us at fangaround.com. Send us an email, mailbag@fangaround.com.
Pitches a tent.
I've got rid of Formspring. It's absolute garbage. I lost the plot of that. So now if you go to listen to mail page, there's an ask.fm if you want to send us an anonymous question. But yeah, we'll wrap this up and head off. All right.
Good night, dear listener.
See ya. Bye.